Film, for the past century, has been used as a portal for imagination to inform, educate, and ideologically influence the audience. Arts and entertainment serve as an escape for our minds from our daily lives to bring us to a new body of knowledge through various forms of film, radio, and TV. Film comes in numerous forms: dramas, romantic love stories, thrillers, war movies, comedies, adventure movies, and of course, documentaries. All of these films show an awareness for educational, ideological, or political influence of the media, which is achieved through both nonverbal and verbal techniques such as script and dialogue, camera angling, special effects, and sounds and music. Through the use of these techniques, the audience enthralls themselves into a culture of its own, one of ever-changing art and reality. For our FOA, we will be focused on two documentaries and how they both show an awareness for the ability for educational influence of the media through language. Our first inspiration text is text number 6, an American silent documentary film created by Robert J. Flaherty, predicting the struggles and daily tasks of the indigenous Inuk people of Canada. The film is one of the first examples of Western documentaries on indigenous groups of people and cultures, used to educate Western society about how these people live, eat, hunt, and gather. Produced in 1922 with a $53,000 budget, the film uses several linguistic techniques in order to inform and educate the shocked and interested Western audience at the time. The film not only aims to look at how these people live, breed, and function, but it aims to show how these people are part of our world. An important part of this is the educational purpose of the movie. Many documentaries use similar linguistic techniques to achieve these same goals and purposes. These nonverbal and verbal techniques of close-up imaging, sound effects, specific narrative techniques, and over-the-head bird-eye view shots are evident in our second documentary, First Contact: The Lost Tribe of the Amazon. The second text we analyze is a documentary by the Brazilian anthropologist José Carlos Meireles. The movie documents first contact with members of a previously isolated tribe called the Xwanapanawawana on the bank of the Ivira River in the village of Simpatia in Brazil. Similar to Nanook of the North, the Lost Tribe of the Amazon aims to inform Western society and educate them about this indigenous and isolated group of people never known or seen to mankind before. To do this, the documentary uses both nonverbal and verbal techniques of special narration, close-up imaging, over-the-head bird-eye view shots, and sound effects to educate the audience better. The documentary predicts a newfound relationship between Western society and these isolated groups, which doesn't always go well. Nevertheless, through these specific nonverbal and verbal techniques, the movie shows an ability for the media to educate Western society about isolated and indigenous groups.
The non-subjective and descriptive language used in the Lost Tribe of the Amazon aims to describe the indigenous tribe strictly for educational purposes. This language focuses on the attitudes, values, thoughts, feelings, and beliefs of the people of the Amazon.
This huge forest reserve that stretches over 30,000 square miles is home to the majority of the last uncontacted people on the planet. Entry from outside is prohibited. The Sapanawa Indians who emerged in Brazil came out on its northern boundary. Hundreds of miles to the south in Peru, just months later, another isolated tribe has been causing chaos.
In the given clip, the narrator uses descriptive language to analyze and break down the region for its size by saying how it's huge and stretches over 30,000 square miles. Also, it identifies its inhabitants by saying it's home to the last uncontacted people on the planet Earth. Lastly, he describes the accessibility of the region by identifying its northern boundaries and by explaining how no one has been able to successfully enter this region. The descriptive language used educates the audience about the living environments of the indigenous people and how they immigrated around the area.
At the end, 35 men and women emerged from isolation following the encounter filmed that day on the beach.
The narrator in The Lost Tribe of the Amazon in this clip adds to his use of non-subjective language by being very monotone, because this provides a solely factual narration with no opinion or feelings attached to present an educational documentary for the audience.
The use of close-up imaging on multiple individuals emphasizes their nature and depicts them as a member of an indigenous group. By focusing closely on the appearance and face of the tribal person, the audience gains an engaging view into the nature and persona of the subject group. Due to the peculiar culture and character of the native people, the close-up shot allows the audience to come face to face with the indigenous people and further educate the Western reader by creating an interactive view into their appearance. The following shot focuses on the clothing, hair, facial expression, and facial features of the tribal chief in both the Nanook and the Amazonian tribe. Similar to animal documentaries, where the image focuses closely on the physical features of the extrinsic species in order to educate the Western viewers about how that given animal hunts, lives, and appears. The Nanook of the North focuses closely on the face of the indigenous person in order to educate about their semblance. This is important since the Western audience has never come to contact with these isolated groups, and thus, an interactive and personal up-close clip allows the audience to feel as if they're being introduced for the very first time.
The various amounts of sounds used in The Lost Tribe of the Amazon help create an awareness of the environment around these indigenous people's everyday lives. This further educates the audience by allowing them to hear more than just dialogue, which lets them successfully imagine how it really is living in the world's largest and most dangerous basin. These non-stop insect noises you hear in the background of this clip show that these indigenous people are living in a region that is home to thousands of insect species, and insects that aren't so friendly. In fact, the Amazon contains a large percentage of the world's most dangerous insects, such as bullet ants, which are known to have the most painful sting known to mankind. The Amazon is also home to the Brazilian wandering spider, whose Greek name means murderer in English, as they are the world's most deadliest spider. The loud gunshot presented in the clip indicates the intense waste of gathering food for this native tribe of the Amazon. Keep in mind you only hear one gunshot because this tribe is so skilled in hunting that on a moving boat they are able to shoot only once on a moving target and successfully kill the alligator. This also shows a sense of resourcefulness by the tribe because clearly they have limited resources and having bullets for a gun is a privilege there, and they know that they can't waste a single gunshot. So they have to be efficient with every last one.
Though Funai provides clothes, tools, and medical help.
The sound of chopping wood depicts how these tribes have to use their strength to cut down and move wood to build their houses and other necessities in order to survive the bleak and severe environment that is the Amazon. The sounds in this documentary really bring to light the strident ecosystem of the Amazon to educate and help the audience understand how hard living can really be.
The utilization of overhead bird-eye view shots depicting the living environments of the indigenous groups are used to educate the audience about migrational movements, location of the tribes, and the living conditions that they face.
Over 7 billion people now inhabit our Earth, but in the remotest corners of the planet, a few men and women still live in complete isolation. Untouched by modern civilization, many of these tribes live deep in the Amazon rainforest.
This flyover shot shows the vast amount of trees and rivers that inhabit the Amazon region of the Swannanopi tribe. By showing the mountains and trees of the region, it educates the audience on the vivid landscape by the use of non-verbal language seen through these film techniques.
Out at Simpatia, the last inhabited outpost on this river, whose source is in the headwaters of the Amazon. It's on the northern edge of a reserve for isolated peoples the size of Ireland, that straddles the border between Brazil and Peru.
The given clip analyzes the living habitat of the Swananapi tribe for its location, size, and contextual importance by highlighting the reserve area granted for the isolated people through the use of an animated map. The use of illustrated borders and rivers on the map help educate the audience on the landscape of the South American region by distinctively illustrating where the tribe lives, hunts, and travels through. Not only does the documentary use map-style over-the-head shots, but it also utilizes high-up views to depict tree lines and give emphasis on the plants and animals living in the environment.
Violence towards the Amazonian tribes has a long history, and not simply from the Spanish conquistadors. In the early 20th century, the rubber industry took over huge swathes of the Amazon basin. They turned some tribes into slave workers. The rubber companies sent out hunters to capture or exterminate tens of thousands of others. Some estimate 90% of all indigenous Indians were wiped out.
These high-up skyline-style clips set a tone for the exotic and compelling living environment of the Amazon by capturing its tree line at sunrise. Thus, the clip educates and allows the viewer to see and hear much of the ecosystem, depicting the environment as to where the local tribes live. Some of these fabulous trees included in the clip of the skyline are the para rubber tree and the Socratea palm, both native to the Amazon region.
The three main elements of language, images, and sound all play a key role in bringing the lost tribe of the Amazon to life in this fascinating documentary. The non-subjective language used in the narration allows the audience to form their own opinions and impressions of the indigenous tribes of the Amazon and their unique culture, rituals, and beliefs. The factual descriptions and matter-of-fact presentation help the viewers focus on the educational content of the documentary instead of being sidetracked by biased or subjective commentary. The descriptive language used, such as the last uncontacted people on the planet, helps the audience understand what an amazing window they are getting into this isolated and largely unknown culture of the Amazon tribes. In using close-up images, the documentarian also skillfully brings the viewer up close and personal with members of the tribes, allowing them to see vivid expressions and facial features as if they had been transported to the Amazon themselves and sitting directly in front of the subject having a conversation. These close-up shots make the audience feel personal, intimate connection with the tribe's members and are very successful in creating an emotional connection between the audience and the tribes of the Amazon, which is exactly what the producer intended. One of the most powerful techniques used to bring the Amazon to life in this documentary is the use of vivid sounds, especially the buzzing ecosystem of insects and animals. Throughout the film, sounds continuously heighten the audience's senses and awareness of the real hardships these indigenous people have to go through on a day-to-day basis. The sounds are captivating and give the viewer a sense they are living among the deep and dangerous jungles of the Amazon. Finally, the flyover shots give the audience a breathtaking, majestic view of the vastness of the Amazon basin. They also give the viewer a bird's-eye view of the landscape and topography of the region, from the mountains and jungles to the rivers and trees. This incredible panoramic perspective brings the beauty of the region, of the world, and its people right into focus. Through the use of non-subjective language, intense sound, and beautiful videography, this documentary skillfully opens our eyes and hearts to the amazing lost tribes of the Amazon. It educates us about their incredibly rich culture, resourceful people, and unique traditions.
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go,
Amazon region of the Swananapi tribe.
bobtail ring.
By showing the mountains and trees in the region.
What fun it is to ride and sing a sleigh night.